Imagine you've been asleep peacefully and you wake up to this. This might just be the best opening to a show that I've ever seen, because right away you're asking, what the hell happened here? Well, welcome to the hellscape that is Blue Gender. This story is almost perfect. Why? Great setting, great characters, great pacing. There's even great art and animation and a great soundtrack as well. But there is one drawback, and you're going to see what that is at the end. Warning, there are spoilers ahead. Let's get started. Okay, so undoubtedly you're going to start by asking, what the hell happened to Earth? Well, it goes like this. In the year 2017, giant bugs appeared for the first time, their numbers exploded, and they devoured everything. Organic matter, inorganic matter, whatever it was, they ate it. They also evolved really fast. Every time humans attacked them, they adapted. So you can guess the result of this equation. A lot of people died. The only human civilization left is made up of people that fled to outer space, but as you know, getting stuff into space is really hard and expensive, so only 100,000 or so people actually managed to escape. Most of the rest of humanity was wiped out, and the only survivors left on Earth are nomads in the wild or desperate and doomed groups hiding out for as long as they can. Naturally, these people who were left behind don't have a high opinion of the folks from the so-called Second Earth, and you see this play out in an unforgettably brutal way in episode 5. I won't spoil how that happens, but it can be hard to watch, and that shows you how good of a job this show does with its plot so early. Death is very common, as you would expect. The lives of even soldiers from Second Earth are expendable. They die, and they die fast. And that leads us to the two main characters of this series. Yuji Kaito, that guy that you heard screaming at the start of the video, and Marlene come from different worlds, almost literally. Yuji was put into a frozen sleep before the blue came to dominate the world as a way to deal with his unknown illness. Remember this, it's going to be very important soon. Since Marlene, though, is the product of this world, someone who grew up in this, she has an extreme militarist mindset. Her entire life is to be a soldier and accomplish her mission. Right now, that means getting Yuji safely into outer space. Now, why does Marlene want to do this so badly? It's because recovering people like Yuji, who Second Earth calls the Sleepers, is a top priority for the High Council, the rulers of that space station. But Marlene and her comrades in arms don't know why, they're just given their orders. Since Yuji woke up before he was supposed to in this process, he's naturally attached to the old world where human life and order still had some value. So he and Marlene argue a lot because their objectives and value systems and temperaments are so different. She was trained to be a cold-blooded killer even when it comes to her own life. For Yuji, that is completely alien to his experience. So the way Yuji and Marlene fight with each other is extremely believable. They don't like each other for good reason. Yuji thinks Marlene is a cold-blooded bitch while she thinks he's a naive idiot who won't survive. And what's great is both of them are right. It just means they both have to be better people. That starts with them working together because they have a really long journey ahead of them, and this is where the pacing in Blue Gender really begins to shine. Yuji and Marlene soon become the only survivors of their squad. They got to watch their comrades get wiped out brutally, and rescue from Japan or Korea becomes impossible. So they have no choice but to go all the way to Moscow to get into space, On foot. Well, not entirely on foot. The show's producers weren't that cruel. You'll see when you watch. But they have no one except each other at this point. So, what do you do then if you are them, if you're in that position? Do you continue the journey in solitude and anger, or do you try to make it work with this other person that you hate? Humans are nothing if not adaptable, so they try to make it work. There's not a lot of blue in this wilderness, so Yuji and Marlene have time to think. Yuji starts to understand more of this horrible new world. Marlene starts to understand what the world was like before. And so they start to form an extremely unlikely bond because, again, that's what people are capable of. Through it all, there's some gorgeous landscapes and some crazy action, and the journey ends in an almost suicide mission with a twist. Yuji does get into space, but nearly gets taken out anyway after he and Marlene share a kiss. And now, suddenly, Marlene accomplished her mission, survived, and is back in space alone. And that starts to haunt her a lot more than it would have before the journey. So being with Yuji changed Marlene for the better, and she proves it in the next few episodes, which I won't spoil. But to Marlene's horror, it's Yuji that's about to change, and for the worse. Now you begin to see why Second Earth's military government wanted Yuji and the other sleepers up there so badly. Because their supposed illness, the thing they were put to sleep for, might be the key to destroying the blue. And when squadrons of sleepers get sent down to battle, the tide of the war finally seems to turn. But here's a cautionary tale for leaders. Do you view the world as being one of problem and solution, or are there trade-offs involved that might make your solution worse than the problem it's supposed to solve? Second Earth's High Council had no idea that they were trading one monster for another by activating the sleepers. I won't tell you why because I don't want to spoil everything, but it comes back to bite Second Earth really, really bad. Like the Yankees getting beaten last year's World Series bad. And in this process, it's now Yuji who loses his humanity. Marlene, the once cold-hearted, ruthless soldier, is the one who now needs to save him. Role reversal is a common storytelling tool, but I've rarely seen a double turn executed as well as it was in Blue Gender. Marlene started as the heel, and Yuji started as the babyface, but they both eventually turned. But neither of them are the real bad guy in this show, and you knew that from the beginning. If they're gonna beat that real bad guy, they both need to be the good guys and on the same page. Tony Frost is the most corrupted among the sleepers, and if he has his way, all of humanity will end. And I think his madness was done very, very well. It's another of the many upsides to this show. Anyway, of course you know what happens. Yuji and Marlene get on the same page for once. Finally, they're completely united, and they beat him. So now Yuji came back to his senses thanks to Marlene, and they eventually became lovers. The enemies to lovers story arc might be overdone, but because this was paced so well and believably, it was done as well as the double turn. Rarely have I seen it been done as well as in Blue Gender, and seeing Yuji and Marlene finally hook up after the whole madness with Tony ended, well, it felt like a well-deserved reward for both of them. If the story ended here, it might have been perfect. Maybe it even would have gotten into the top 10 in my coming top 100 best stories video. Subscribe to see that because I'm going to do those countdown videos when I reach certain milestones. Check out my recent post for more on that. Anyway, unfortunately Blue Gender didn't end here, so how do you take something that's perfect and make it not? Well, it turns out that Tony Frost wasn't even the main bad guy in the show after all. It was the Earth itself. The Earth wanted humanity gone and evolved the blue for that purpose. The show draws on something called the Gaia hypothesis, which was developed by James Lovelock and Lynn Margulis in the 1970s, and basically the idea is that the Earth itself is a living organism created by all living beings and the environment, creating a balance that keeps life going strong. But humans threw it out of balance and the Earth responded with the blue. It's basically an environmental horror story. This news was interesting as it could have forced a reassessment of everything the people on Second Earth believed, but that already happened by then when the true nature of the sleepers came out. It could have led to a sort of bittersweet ending with Yuji and Marlene getting together, but humanity doomed to live in the cold of space until, I guess, the lucky ones packed up and moved somewhere else. But that didn't happen either. Instead, the climax comes when the blue already begin to fade, and Yuji faces a really badass blue, and it was a great fight, but then he goes into some pool or something, and then all the blue disappear as Second Earth gets destroyed because everyone goes crazy somehow, conveniently at the exact same time. Yeah, it's as much of a clusterfuck as it sounds. But by that point, you're likely already going to be so happy with what you've seen that you won't mind this too much, and I personally don't. Blue Gender is one of the few series that I come back to every year. There's also a movie called Blue Gender the Warrior, and it's mostly a condensation of the series with events changing to make up for the much shorter runtime. You don't need to watch it. Maybe you want to watch it once if you really like the show, but I will give it credit for one thing. The ending is done a lot better. It happens after Marlene finally manages to cure Yuji from his madness. It's sudden, it's not going to be on my countdown of the best endings I've ever seen to a story, but it's in the direction of the ending I wished the main series had. There's also a manga series of Blue Gender, but I haven't been able to find it anywhere. If you somehow have, let me know where it is. So, aside from the final 2 episodes, Blue Gender is about as close to perfect as it gets, and maybe what's so great about it is that it's a one and done. It didn't feel the need to keep going on and on like so many other series have at the expense of their quality. So that's all for now. The next video is probably going to be about Like Mother Like Daughter on Webtoon because those videos do well and I want to keep you guys happy. But I'm also going to try to engage the other half of this channel's name and do some stuff in the gym, hopefully. And if you want to get those countdown videos, subscribe. I will start with the 100 best written villains when I reach 5,000. Alright, until next time, keep writing and keep fighting, guys. Hopefully see you in the gym.